Almost 185,000 tech workers lost their jobs this year. Engineers, marketers, support staff, people who thought they had the safest jobs in the economy. And the number one reason their own bosses gave was not a recession. It was not overhiring. It was artificial intelligence. 185,000 people. That is not a rounding error. That is an entire city told to pack a box and hand in the badge in about 6 months. And here is what nobody is connecting for you. The exact same companies doing the firing just told their investors they are about to spend $700 billion, not over a decade, this year, on AI. So they are broke enough to cut your job, but rich enough to spend $700 billion. Both of those cannot be true. So which one is the lie? To see how the trick works, let me introduce you to the poster child. Oracle. Yeah, the boring database company your dad's office used to run on. Not exactly a startup. And this year, Oracle did something that should have been front page news everywhere. Oracle cut 21,000 jobs in a single year. 21,000. That is nearly 1 in every 8 people who worked there walking out the door. Their headcount dropped from 162,000 down to 141,000. And the reason is not hidden in some leaked memo. It is right there in their official filing. They said the cuts came from, quote, the adoption and deployment of AI. In plain English, they fired the people and they kept the robot, and they told the government about it in writing. And look, these are not just numbers on a slide. 21,000 people means 21,000 mortgages, car payments, and kids' college funds. Real families who did nothing wrong, who hit every target and got told that a piece of software is simply cheaper than they are. Now, before you tell me that it's just one weird company, no. Oracle is not the exception. Oracle is the trend, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Look at who else swung the axe this year. Cloudflare cut 1,000 people, a fifth of the entire company. Meta cut 8,000. Cisco cut 4,000. Snap, Block, and a dozen names you use every single day. Different logos, same memo, same quiet little reason buried in the paperwork. Add every one of these up, and something wild pops out of the data. Artificial intelligence is now the single most common reason companies gave for layoffs this entire year. Around 87,000 jobs gone, and the reason on the paperwork is basically a chatbot can do it now. And it is not slowing down, it is picking up speed. All of last year, for 12 whole months, AI got blamed for about 55,000 cuts. This year, we blew past that number by the middle of the summer. The line is bending in the wrong direction, fast. And here is the dirty little secret nobody in that boardroom will say out loud. Half the time, the AI cannot actually do the whole job yet. So what really happens? The people who are left just quietly absorb the extra work. Same pay, double the load, and if they are lucky, a shiny new title. Okay, so here's where your gut probably kicks in. Normally, when a company does mass layoffs, you assume they are in trouble. Bleeding cash, missing targets, circling the drain, cutting jobs to survive. That is the story we have all been trained to accept. So let us check it against Oracle's actual numbers. Oracle's revenue did not fall. It went up 17% to $67 billion. Their cloud business, the AI part, grew 39%. Profit was up too. These are not the numbers of a company fighting to survive. These are the numbers of a company having its best year in ages. So just sit in that for a second. Making more money than they ever have in their history and cutting 1 in 8 jobs in the same 12 months? That is not a company that ran out of money. That is a company that decided it did not want to share it. Read that twice, because they are betting you will not. So if they are not saving a sinking ship, then where does the money that used to be your salary actually go? It does not just vanish. It does not all go to shareholders either. Follow it, and it leads to one place. It goes into the building. Specifically, into giant windowless warehouses out in the desert, stacked floor to ceiling with AI chips humming 24/7 and drinking electricity like a small country. That is what your paycheck got turned into. A very expensive, very hungry building full of silicon. And if this whole thing feels familiar, it should. We ran this exact play about 20 years ago, and back then we called it offshoring. Ship the work somewhere cheaper, promise everyone the savings will trickle back down, and then act shocked when it just becomes a bigger bonus for the guy at the very top. And these buildings are not cheap. Oracle poured $55 billion into them this year alone. That is so much money that their free cash flow, the actual cash left at the end of the day, did not just shrink. It went negative by almost $24 billion. Let that sink in. A profitable, booming company chose to go cash negative on purpose and then covered the gap by cutting your paycheck and borrowing another $20 billion on top. Nobody forced this. That is not survival. That is a choice made in a boardroom about you. And this is the part almost nobody says out loud, so I am going to say it slowly. Your layoff and that data center are not two separate stories. They are the same story. They are the same line item, just written in two different places. 185,000 jobs on one side of the ledger, $700 billion of AI spending on the other. Those two numbers are not a coincidence sitting next to each other. One is paying for the other. That is not a layoff. That is a transfer. The money that used to be your paycheck is now the down payment on the machine they built to do your job. So you were not cut from the budget to save the budget. Follow it all the way down, and the uncomfortable truth is this: you were the budget. Meanwhile, up on stage, the CEO calls it a hard but necessary decision. He says it with a straight face, a nice slide, maybe a line about focus and discipline. And the stock ticks up. Because Wall Street, for now, absolutely loves this trade. Fewer humans, more AI, fatter margins, on paper. And that phrase, on paper, is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because the entire trade only works, the whole thing only makes sense, if the AI actually pays off in the end. So does it? Now, to be fair, the companies do have a real argument here, and I will give it to them. They will tell you AI makes the people who remain far more productive, that brand new kinds of jobs always appear, and that this is just progress you cannot fight. And over a long enough timeline, sometimes that is even true. But here is the catch buried inside that comfort. Progress measured in decades does not pay your rent this month. That gap between they cut the job today and those brand new jobs appearing someday, that gap is exactly where real people fall straight through the floor. Here's the quiet worry humming underneath the entire thing. Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Oracle are, together, spending somewhere around $700 billion this year. That is nearly double what they spent last year. All of it on one enormous all-in bet that AI pays for itself. And here is the kicker. Nobody, and I genuinely mean nobody, actually knows if AI will earn back $700 billion a year. Not the analysts, not the CEOs. Even the people writing these giant checks admit out loud in interviews that they cannot see where the payoff ends. They're just hoping. So step back and look at what we are actually doing here. We are running one enormous experiment on the real economy. Fire the workers now, today, to pay for an AI that might replace them later, maybe. And the scary part is the two ways this can end. So what do you actually do with all of this? Simple. You stop taking the AI excuse at face value. The next time a company blames a robot, go and pull up the revenue line. Because the number they cut and the number that went up are almost always sitting right there next to each other. If the bet is wrong and the AI does not deliver, then we torched 185,000 careers to build a bunch of very expensive warehouses full of chips that nobody actually needed. A crater with your name on it. And if the bet is right, if the AI works perfectly, then congratulations, you still lost your job. The machine kept it. So look at the actual trade on the table. Heads, they win. Tails, you lose. There is no square on this board where the worker comes out ahead. Now look, I need to be clear because people love to misread this. I'm not anti-AI. The tech is real, some of it is genuinely amazing. What I am against is the pretending. Pretending this is a story about efficiency, when it is really a story about who gets to keep the money you used to make. So the next time a company stands up and says, AI forced our hand, we had no choice. Just ask them one simple question. Did your revenue go up this year? Because Oracle's went up by almost $10 billion, the same year that cut 21,000 people. Sometimes the numbers just tell on themselves. If this made you look at that $700 billion number just a little differently, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I read the boring filings in the fine print, so you do not have to, and I will see you in the next one.